demand is huge at the moment. You've brought nearly all your aircraft back. Your percentage versus 2019 is up there again.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we expect to grow by about 10% this year. We did 150 million passengers pre-COVID.
In euro, we come in at 170 million euro pre-exceptional items.
Ryanair is one of the most profitable airlines in Europe and is considered to be the father of low-cost flying. It really is a benchmark for no-frills airlines, a model that has given birth to many other low-cost airlines like JetBlue, EasyJet and Indigo. But how is Ryanair able to sell a ticket from Dublin to London for just 10 euros and still be profitable? And why other airlines are unable to do it? In this video, we deep dive into the Ryanair case study of low-cost flying. Let's start. While there are many no-frills airlines, some independent and other owned by legacy airlines like Lufthansa's Eurowing, they all mostly follow the same operating model. But given that Ryanair is the most popular, affordable and profitable, it is the best way to know more about the low-cost flying model. Ryanair started in 1984 and is currently based in Dublin, Ireland. In a span of 3 decades, it grew from a small airline to Europe's biggest low-cost airline, serving 40 countries, 225 cities, and carrying about 150 million passengers just last year. It flies to small cities across Europe, but also major destinations like Paris, London, and Amsterdam. So why is Ryanair able to sell a ticket from Dublin to Amsterdam for 40 euros, while the same route with Lufthansa costs about 200 euros? It all comes down to 3 points: maintaining low cost, no frills operation, and high operating efficiency. Let's take a look at each of these 3 factors individually. The biggest contributing factor towards cost for an airline is fuel. It forms more than 50% of the running cost of an airplane, and keeping that low can have huge effect on the margins for an airline. Ryanair and other low-cost airlines typically have a newer fleet of airplanes as compared to legacy airlines, which means that these new planes are much more efficient than other bigger competitors, using less fuel per passenger. For example, Ryanair's entire fleet of aircrafts on average is about 7 to 8 years old, while the average fleet age for a full carrier like Lufthansa is about 12 years. It's not just the fleet age. Low-cost carriers like Ryanair tend to have the same type of aircraft for all destinations. This means that the crew, pilots and the ground staff needs to be trained only to operate one type of aircraft, reducing training costs across the board. The other big factor that has a direct impact on cost is no-frills operating model. This means that the main focus of these airlines is not customer experience, but rather cutting down the cost of operation. Most low-cost airlines do not offer complimentary food or cost-free baggage check-in. Ryanair and EasyJet takes this to the maximum extent, where they do not allow free cabin baggage to carry along with the backpack, and charge up to 60 euros if the carry-on bag does not fit their dimensions. Up until recently, Ryanair used to charge almost 50 euros to take a print of the boarding pass at the terminal. There are no buses or aerobridge to take you to the plane. The seats don't recline, and some flights have advertisements for additional revenue. All these tactics help to keep operating costs low and generate extra revenue. Roughly 25% of Ryanair's profit is not from airline tickets. It's from the charge it collects from its customers for these paid services. The third reason for the amazingly low prices of low-cost airlines is their high efficiency. These airlines tend to fly to smaller routes to make multiple trips in a day. Compare that to traditional airlines, which tend to use the hub and spoke model in order to connect faraway cities from each other. This model means that sometimes planes for full freight carriers have to wait at the connection airport in order to make the next leg of their journey. On the other hand, planes for low-cost airlines make the most number of trips possible so that the plane is always making money. This does mean that they use more fuel, but given the short distances, they're able to cover that out. Ryanair and a lot of other European low-cost airlines tend not to fly to the main airport, but rather a smaller nearby airport, where the time spent to offload and onboard passengers is a lot less. For example, all full flight carriers from Dublin flies to the main CDG airport in France, but Ryanair and EasyJet tend to fly to BVA, which is a much smaller airport and is farther from the city. This model also saves costs for these airlines in terms of airport fees, operating costs, and negotiating power with smaller airports. There are exceptions to this as well, in cases where there's a single airport that connects the major city. Amsterdam is a good example of this. This successful model of operations has worked wonders in Europe and in some countries in Asia, especially India. But the US is yet to replicate this model with success. Many full-freight carriers launched their own low-cost versions in the region, but none of them has been able to succeed. There are multiple reasons for this, but the main ones being that these low-cost versions were still working on the existing long-haul network of bigger airlines, and they could just not operate at the scale at which Europe does. While Ryanair continues to be the king of low-cost airlines, the overall model is here to stay and will continue to offer cheaper prices to consumers. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, do drop in a like and subscribe to show your support for this channel. Thank you for watching.